Hello, this is Shmuel Moshe, and you are listening to the Weekly Parashahcast. This week's Parashah is for Shabbat on the 27th of Cheshvan, 5784. That's the 11th of November, 2023. Torah portion, Chayei Sarah. Before we begin, as always, I'd like to remind everyone that though I am hosting a Torah podcast, I am not a professional Torah scholar, just somebody who wished to study Torah. The text for today's reading can be found on Chabad.org if you'd like to follow along. Let's begin. Genesis chapter 23. Chayei Sarah. And the life of Sarah was 100 years and 20 years and 7 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died in Kiryat Arba, which is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to eulogize Sarah and to bewail her. And Abraham arose from before his dead, and he spoke to the sons of Heth, saying, I am a stranger and an inhabitant with you. Give me burial property with you, so that I may bury my dead from before me. And the sons of Heth answered Abraham, saying to him, Listen to us, my lord. You are a prince of God in our midst. In the choicest of our graves bury your dead. None of us will withhold his grave from you to bury your dead. And Abraham arose and prostrated himself to the people of the land, to the sons of Heth. And he spoke with them, saying, If it is your will that I bury my dead from before me, listen to me and entreat for me to Ephron the son of Zohar, that he may give me the Machpelah cave, which belongs to him, which is at the end of his field. For a full price let him give it to me in your midst for burial property. Now Ephron was sitting in the midst of the sons of Heth, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the sons of Heth, of all those who had come into the gate of his city, saying, No, my lord, listen to me. I have given you the field and the cave that is in it. I have given it to you. Before the eyes of the sons of my people, I have given it to you. Bury your dead. And Abraham prostrated himself before the people of the land. And he spoke to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, saying, But if only you would listen to me, I am giving the money for the field. Take it from me, and I will bury my dead there. And Ephron replied to Abraham, saying to him, My lord, listen to me. A piece of land worth 400 shekels of silver, what is it between me and you? Bury your dead. And Abraham listened to Ephron. And Abraham weighed out to Ephron the silver that he had named in the hearing of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, accepted by the merchant. And that concludes the first of this week's Torah portions, the first portion. So, quick recap. Sarah has died. Abraham's precious beloved wife has passed on, and he wants to get a burial plot, a cave, the cave of Machpelah. Now, the specifics behind this here, he wants to buy the cave. He doesn't want it to be given to him for free. First, the sons of Heth say, Oh, well, hey, you're the man. We'll give it to you for free, no problem. We'll give you the very best that we've got. And he says, No, I would like to talk to this specific guy for this specific plot that I want, and I want to buy it from him. And sure enough, they give him an audience with the guy, and he tells him, I'll give it to you. No, please, let me give it to you. His exact words, I have given you the field and the cave that is in it. I have given it to you. Before the eyes of the sons of my people, I have given it to you. Bury your dead. And Abraham prostrated himself. But if only you would listen to me, I am giving the money for the field. So, the significance here. Why is it that everybody's trying to give and Abraham refuses to take without paying? So one, this is a matter of fairness, of course, but with Abraham, we notice this trend with other sections as well. Keep in mind, after he had saved Lot and liberated the people of Sodom from their captors, he was also offered a quite nice bounty as a reward from the king. But he said to that, No, I'm not taking it. I'm only going to have what I already had with the feast and whatever is owed to the guys who helped me. But me personally, I will not accept any gifts. And that's basically it. Now here we are in another situation where yet again someone is offering to give him something, and he is refusing to take their charity or their goodwill, and instead he will offer the fair price for whatever it is. So in this case, 400 shekels of silver. So the significance here, think of it like this. When somebody gives you something, they give you some sort of, whatever it may be. someone out of their will of kindness, they, as a gesture, say, please, feel free to stay as a guest at my house anytime. Think of it in that context. You have a friend that you know that when you travel, maybe you go to their house. Oh, yes, you could stay with me anytime. So you go and you stay there. And then one day, something changes. And the person says, hey, I know I said you could stay anytime, but I actually need you to get on out of here. So Abraham is preventing a situation like that from happening by taking proper ownership of this from the person he's buying it from, and doing so in witness to the sons of Heth who facilitated the conversation. He is guaranteeing it is known that this land was purchased and it belongs to Abraham. It is not borrowed. It is not charity. It is not something he's receiving as whatever. He is buying it. It is his property. This is very important. Again, who owns the land is critically important, especially in the time period. Who is the one who actually owns the right to the land? Well, now this land belongs to the house of Abraham. So the ancestors of the house, of course, will be buried there, and then the descendants will have the same right to it, for the land belongs to Abraham's household. So very, very, very important. And with that, also notice the respect that's exchanged back and forth. Abraham prostrates himself. He's always doing things properly. He's speaking very properly and politely, and he's doing things the correct way. And of course, with no disrespect, he offers the fair price for the land, not taking it for free, thus ensuring that the land is his and really his, and not the charity of somebody who might be able to change their mind later. Let's go ahead and move on to the second portion. Chapter 23, verse 17. And so the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, facing Mamre, was established. The field and the cave that was in it, and all the trees that were in the field, which were within its entire border around. To Abraham as a possession before the eyes of the sons of Heth, in the presence of all who had come within the gate of his city. And afterwards Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah, facing Mamre, which is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And the field and the cave within it were established to Abraham as burial property, from the sons of Heth. Chapter 24. And Abraham was old, advanced in days, and the Lord had blessed Abraham with everything. And Abraham said to his servant, the elder of his house, who ruled over all that was his, please place your hand under my thigh, and I will adjure you by the Lord, the God of the heaven and the God of the earth, that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose midst I dwell. But you shall go to my land and to my birthplace, and you shall take a wife for my son, for Isaac. And the servant said to him, perhaps the woman will not wish to go after me to this land. Shall I return your son to the land from which you came? And Abraham said to him, beware, lest you return my son back there. The Lord God of the heavens, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my birth, and who spoke about me, and who swore to me, saying, to your seed will I give this land, he will send his angel before you, and you shall take a wife for my son from there. And if the woman will not wish to go after you, you will be absolved of this, my oath, only do not return my son back there. And the servant placed his hand under the thigh of Abraham his master, and he swore to him concerning this matter. So, following off as we end the second portion, Abraham has sealed the deal, the land is his, and he has buried his wife there. And it is established firmly this is Abraham's property that he owns. Now, with Abraham getting on in years, the next thing, the final thing that he really needs to make sure he does is see to it that his son has a proper wife. And so he calls forth the head of his house. So basically, think of this as his right-hand man, the guy who he puts in charge of managing all his affairs. Abraham is a wealthy and successful guy. He's really made it in life. He's been taken care of by the Most High God. And so now he can talk to the guy who's basically his general manager of all his assets and sends this guy whom he trusts the most, but gives him a clear oath. You'll go to the land of my ancestry, where I come from, and you will not let my son take a wife from the daughters of the Canaanites. You will get someone who is basically of my kin. And from that, he also says, well, what if she won't come with me? What do I do? And Abraham, do I bring her back? Do I bring Isaac there? And Abraham says, no, absolutely not. If she says no, then you don't have to do it. Just, you're free of the oath that you're making to me right now. But no matter what, even if that happens, you cannot bring my son there. And so that is the key takeaway here. And he makes this vow that he's going to go do it. And he's also been given the assurances that an angel is going to guide his way. So, I mean, really, there's nothing to worry about on that front. Since when has this ever not been an absolute guarantee, right? Things have gone pretty well when Abraham speaks on these matters. But with that in mind, it was still a consideration of the possibility. I think establishing the important things. One, the wife cannot come from Canaan. And two, Isaac cannot go back to the previous land that Abraham comes from. Why? This land that he's in now is the one that was promised to his seed. This land where he is, this promised land, is where he must dwell. Do not bring my son back there. Now, what's the emphasis on that? Why is that such a big deal? Well, we have to remember where Abraham comes from. The land that he came from is a land of idol worshippers. He is not going to find people who are revering his God quite the same way. And so this is important that his son does not go back there, because think of the influence his relatives would have. The people of that culture would ultimately muddy up all the work Abraham did to build great favor with the Most High God. And worse, what if they convince Isaac to go astray from that path? So that's definitely something to be mindful of and fearful of. So he's just doing all he can to prevent it from happening. And that's basically all you need to know. The servant has made his oath, and he has his conditions for success and what to do if it fails. Let's go ahead and move on to the third portion. Chapter 24 of Genesis, verse 10. And the servant took 10 camels of his master's camels, and he went, and all the best of his master was in his hand. And he arose, and he went to Aram Naharaim, to the city of Nahor. And he made the camels kneel outside the city beside the well of water, at eventide, at the time the maidens go out to draw water. And he said, O Lord, the God of my master Abraham, please cause to happen to me today, and perform loving kindness with my master Abraham. Behold, I am standing by the water fountain, and the daughters of the people of the city are coming out to draw water. And it will be, the maiden to whom I will say, Lower your pitcher, and I will drink. And she will say, Drink, and I will also water your camels. Her have you designated for your servant, for Isaac, and through her may I know that you have performed loving kindness with my master. Now he had not yet finished speaking, and behold, Rebekah came out, who had been born to Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, and her pitcher was on her shoulder. Now the maiden was of very comely appearance, a virgin, and no man had been intimate with her. And she went down to the fountain, and she filled her pitcher, and went up. And the servant ran toward her, and he said, Please let me sip a little water from your pitcher. And she said, Drink, my lord. And she hastened and lowered her pitcher to her hand, and she gave him to drink. And she finished giving him to drink, and she said, I will also draw for your camels until they will have finished drinking. And she hastened, and she emptied her pitcher into the trough, and she ran again to the well to draw water, and she drew for all his camels. And the man was astonished at her, standing silent, to know whether the Lord had caused his way to prosper or not. Now it came about, when the camels had finished drinking, the man took a golden nose ring, weighing 1/2 shekel, and 2 bracelets for her hands, weighing 10 gold. And he said, Whose daughter are you? Please tell me, is there place for us for lodging in your father's house? And she said to him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor. And she said to him, Both straw and fodder are plentiful with us, also a place to lodge. And the man kneeled and prostrated himself to the Lord. So here we have it. The man has gone to fulfill his mission, to find a wife for Isaac, and he prays on it. He prays for the Lord to give him a sign. He gives a very specific condition. Have a woman show up who will offer me some drink, and when I'm drinking, she'll even take care of my camels. Basically, before he even finishes thinking this, it happens. Rebekah appears and does exactly that. And to his great astonishment, wow, this is the one. Literally, the first person who spoke to him is already the one. So it's all just a matter of the Lord's will. It's manifest instantly. And what does he do? He presents her with the golden ring, as well as the bracelets for her hands, golden nose ring and the bracelets. So big money here. And he asks, is there a place for us? Where can I stay? At your father's place? He's basically laying down the plan because his goal is going to be to go and try to make a move here to bring her back for Isaac. So he's doing everything he's got to do the right way. And he also, what's the significance of this, right? When the camels had finished drinking, the man took a golden nose ring and 2 bracelets. So he opens by giving her this very fancy jewelry. And what does this do? Well, this is a status symbol in a few different ways, but it's also, well, I think we'll just continue from here because it's going to come up again very soon in the 4th portion. Let's go ahead. 4th portion, Genesis chapter 24, verse 27. And he said, Blessed is the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his loving kindness and his truth from my master. As for me, the Lord led me on the road to the house of my master's kinsman. And the maiden ran, and she told her mother's house what had happened. Now Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban, and Laban ran to the man outside, to the fountain. And it came to pass, when he saw the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's hands, and when he heard the words of his sister Rebekah, saying, So did the man speak to me, that he came to the man, and behold, he was standing over the camels at the fountain. And he said, Come, you are blessed of the Lord. Why should you stand outside when I have cleared the house and a place for the camels? So the man came to the house and unmuzzled the camels, and he gave straw and fodder to the camels, and water to wash his feet, and the feet of the men who were with him. And food was set before him to eat, but he said, I will not eat until I have spoken my words. And he said, Speak. And he said, I am Abraham's servant. And the Lord blessed my master exceedingly, and he became great. And he gave him sheep and cattle and silver and gold, manservants and maidservants, camels and donkeys. And Sarah, my master's wife, bore a son to my master after she had become old, and she gave him all that he possesses. And my master adjured me, saying, You shall not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites in whose land I dwell. Instead, you must go to my father's house and to my family, and take a wife for my son. And I said to my master, Perhaps the woman will not follow me. And he said to me, The Lord before whom I walked will send his angel with you, and make your way prosper. And you shall take a wife for my son from my family and from my father's house. You will then be absolved from my oath when you come to my family, and if they do not give her to you, you will be absolved from my oath. So I came today to the fountain, and I said, O Lord God of my master Abraham, if you desire to prosper my way upon which I am going, behold, I am standing by the water fountain. When a maiden comes out to draw water, I will say to her, Please give me a little water to drink from your pitcher. And she will say to me, You too may drink, and I will also draw water for your camels. She is the woman whom the Lord has designated for my master's son. I had not yet finished speaking thus in my heart, and behold, Rebekah came out with her pitcher on her shoulder, and she went down to the fountain and drew water. And I said to her, Please give me to drink. And she hastened and lowered her pitcher from upon her, and she said, Drink, and I will also water your camels. So I drank, and she also watered the camels. And I asked her, and I said, Whose daughter are you? And she replied, The daughter of Bethuel, the son of Nahor, whom Milcah bore to him. And I placed the nose ring on her nose, and the bracelets on her hands. And I kneeled and prostrated myself to the Lord, and I blessed the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who led me on the true path to take the daughter of my master's brother for his son. And now, if you will do loving kindness and truth with my master, tell me, and if not, tell me, and I will turn to the right or to the left. And Laban and Bethuel answered and said, The matter has emanated from the Lord. We cannot speak to you either bad or good. Behold, Rebekah is before you. Take her and go, and let her be a wife for your master's son, as the Lord has spoken. Now it came to pass when Abraham's servant heard their words, that he prostrated himself on the ground to the Lord. So here we have it, the conclusion of the fourth portion. So, as it goes, the man goes to Laban's house, the house of Rebekah, and he basically gives a rundown of what just happened. So, first off, why did Laban go and meet him by the water well? Well, aside from hearing the fancy story, he also saw a lovely nose ring and bracelets. Interesting. The man moved awful quickly to go and greet this guy and welcome him to come stay. Oh, I've already cleaned the place up for you. Come on by. Why? One could speculate that it was greed, or it was the opportunity presented. Think about what his sister is wearing. Think about the overall impression of this. This wealthy man who is giving my sister all this fancy jewelry is asking to stay here? I wonder how much more we could get out of this guy. He's clearly good people. And so that is kind of why the guest is so urgently welcome to come stay. And then they tell him, eat. But no, before he eats, he's going to explain what's going on. And so, in full, he explains everything. He tells them exactly what happened, what the reason for his mission is, what happened at the well, and the fact that Rebekah fulfilled his entire request he made to the Lord in an instant. So, without any further ado, he's basically thrilled, he's grateful, and the family says, well, hey, if this is a godly matter, if this came from the Lord, we can't weigh in on it either way. They don't even ask us for our opinion. So, go ahead, take her. It's done. So, that's a pretty straightforward answer. Now, again, there are good things to come from all this, so let's stand to benefit, but also let's not test anything here. For better or for worse, they roll everything as an okay and say, yes, there's Rebekah, have her. Let's move on to the fifth portion. Chapter 24 of Genesis, verse 53. And the servant took out silver articles and golden articles and garments, and he gave to Rebekah, and he gave delicacies to her brother and to her mother. And they ate and drank, he and the men who were with him, and they lodged, and they arose in the morning, and he said, Send me away to my master. And her brother and her mother said, Let the maiden stay with us a year or 10 months. Afterwards she will go. But he said to them, Do not delay me, since the Lord has made my way prosper. Send me away, and I will go to my master. And they said, Let us call the maiden and ask her. And they summoned Rebekah, and they said to her, Will you go with this man? And she said, I will go. So they sent Rebekah their sister and her nurse, and Abraham's servant and his men. And they blessed Rebekah, and said to her, Our sister, may you become thousands of myriads, and may your seed inherit the cities of their enemies. And Rebekah and her maidens arose and rode on the camels, and they followed the man, and the servant took Rebekah and left. Now Isaac was on his way, coming from Be'er Lahai-roi, and he dwelt in the land of the south. And Isaac went forth to pray in the field towards the evening. And he lifted his eyes and saw, and behold, camels were approaching. And Rebekah lifted her eyes and saw Isaac, and she let herself down from the camel. And she said to the servant, Who is that man walking in the fields toward us? And the servant said, He is my master. And she took the veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. And Isaac brought her to the tent of Sarah his mother, and he took Rebekah, and she became his wife. And he loved her, and Isaac was comforted for his mother. So, the deed is done. Not only does Rebekah get a beautiful, beautiful gift dowry, but also the brother and the mother get the delicacies. So basically, yes, this is a big win here for the family. They make merry, and then it's time to go. But they ask, well, can't she stay with us and then go? Can't we keep her for a little longer? But he says, nope, absolutely not. Let me get going. So they said, let's ask her. And what does she do? She says, I'll go. So with that, she gets a blessing. May you become thousands of myriads. May your seed inherit the cities of their enemies. Great, great, great. And going back, we have the first encounter between Rebekah and her new soon-to-be husband, Isaac. So you could consider this to be a love at first sight sort of thing. But also, it's kind of significant and beautiful. This all happened because why? Isaac was going to pray. That's the whole reason he's even there. He's honoring the Most High God. And so in doing so, you can almost see this as an answer to that intention to pray. Here, have your wife. And as it says, he took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. And he was comforted, right? So he was still grieving. He lost his mother, but now he has a companion. So very, very significant. And of course, Isaac hears the full scoop of what happened out there. So, I mean, the whole thing is just blessings upon blessings, I think is the simplest way to interpret that. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for this portion. Let's go ahead and move on to the 6th. Chapter 25, verse 1. And Abraham took another wife, and her name was Keturah. And she bore him Zimran, and Jokshan, and Medan, and Midian, and Jishbak, and Shuah. And Jokshan begot Sheba and Dedan, and the sons of Dedan were Asherim, Letushim, and Leumim. And the sons of Midian were Ephah, and Epher, and Enoch, and Abidah, and Elda'ah. All these were the sons of Keturah. And Abraham gave all that he possessed to Isaac. And to the sons of Abraham's concubines Abraham gave gifts, and he sent them away from his son Isaac while he was still alive, eastward to the land of the east. And these are the days of the years of Abraham's life that he lived, 100 years, and 70 years, and 5 years. And Abraham expired and died in good old age, old and satisfied, and he was gathered to his people. And Isaac and Ishmael his sons buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar the Hittite, which faces Mamre. The field that Abraham had bought from the sons of Heth, there Abraham and his wife were buried. Now it came to pass after Abraham's death, that God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac dwelt near Be'er Lachai Roi. Thus concludes the brief 6th portion. So, a note here, Abraham, in his own situation, he has gone ahead and taken another wife and has several different sons. Now, I do find one of these names to be significant, Midian, or the Midian, if this is to be the implication, the origin of the Midianites, which are very, very important people historically, implying that they are descendants of one of Abraham's many seeds, entirely possible. Even Cyrus the Great comes from the Midianites, right? So this may be such a significant statement as that. Or it could be a different Midian, but we'll also see that Midian does come up again much, much later when we're in the stories of significant characters at a later time, which I will not spoil. But remember the name Midian. It will probably be relevant again, not so far in the future, at least within the 5 books of Moses, right? So, cool. Now, verse 5, and Abraham gave all that he possessed to Isaac, and to the sons of Abraham's concubines he gave gifts and sent them away from his son Isaac while he was still alive. So this is very significant. He makes it clear that his inheritance all goes to Isaac while he's still alive. While Abraham is still living, he clearly passes on all his possessions to Isaac, and he gives gifts and then sends away the other sons that were from his concubines. So he makes it clear while he's still living, there's no room for any sort of dispute over who's inheriting what. The inheritance is abundantly clear. It will be inherited by Isaac, and everybody else gets nice gifts and then go away, go to the east. So that's just significant in the whole hegemony thing and who's the proper successor, inheritor. It's Isaac. Abraham lives to be 175, very nice, buried with Sarah in the cave of Machpelah. And it came to pass after Abraham's death that God blessed his son Isaac. So the significance here, Abraham carried the blessing. He was the one blessed by God specifically. And now, you could think of this blessing almost like a physical presence, if not a spiritual one. But it can only be held by one person at a time. And so, this blessing that Abraham has, it now comes to pass that God blesses Isaac. So, I'm not saying it's impossible for more than one person to be blessed, but the idea is this blessing from God goes to Isaac after Abraham is gone. In other words, he's now favoring the son who inherited everything, including the blessing. So that's all very important, but again, the most important things to remember here, one, that Abraham made sure to clearly define who's receiving everything, which is Isaac, and he did send off his other sons with gifts, and two, that Abraham passes on, Isaac receives the blessing from God after the fact. Now, there's one last very, very, very important thing that I also neglected to mention, but it's verse 9. And Isaac and Ishmael, his sons, buried him in the cave of Machpelah. So, it's not just Isaac here at Abraham's death, but also Ishmael, his firstborn son. The other sons were all sent away. The concubine offspring, they're sent away. But Ishmael is special. And look, even though he and his brother are separated from each other, in the death of Abraham, they come together and they bury their father together. Very, very important because, again, look at this. Ishmael is back. The firstborn son, the first son of Abraham, son of Hagar. Here he is with his brother Isaac. Together, they buried their father. So it's important, even though it was clearly stated that all his possessions go to Isaac, and the blessing is also specified afterward, right? The blessing goes to Isaac. That's important because, again, Ishmael's here. But with all that, just keep in mind the fact that Ishmael was there to bury his father with Isaac. I think it speaks to the importance and also the love and respect. These guys have reasons to not be the best of friends here. I mean, it's said that he will be forever a thorn or a problem, whoever always is fighting with his brothers, right? But they bury Abraham together. So a little bit of an important family moment here, but also a recognition, I think, for Ishmael as a genuine and revered and loved son. He is a legitimate son on equal terms with Isaac at the funeral. Not as the inheritor, but as one who has the right to bury his father. Unlike the concubine boys, Ishmael is a real son. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the seventh portion. Genesis chapter 25, verse 12. Now these are the generations of Ishmael, the son of Abraham, whom Hagar the Egyptian, the maidservant of Sarah, bore to Abraham. And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names, according to their births. The firstborn of Ishmael was Nebaiot, and Kedar, and Adbeel, and Mibsam, and Mishma, and Dumah, and Masah, Hadad, and Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedma. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names in their open cities and in their walled cities, 12 princes to their nations. And these are the years of the life of Ishmael, 100 years and 30 years and 7 years. And he expired and died and was gathered to his people. And they dwelt from Havilah to Shur, which borders on Egypt, going towards Ashur. Before all his brothers he dwelt. And so, concluding here with the seventh portion, it's all about Ishmael's sons, the fulfillment of the promise that he would sire 12 princes from the different nations, right? 12 nations. He would be the father of 12 princes. So this is just saying, just as promised, yes, Isaac received the blessing, right? So this is immediately coming off of verse 11 from the sixth portion. Now it came to pass after Abraham's death that God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac dwelt near Be'er Lachai. Now these are the generations of Ishmael, the son of Abraham. It immediately goes from that to then into the seventh portion. So the separation of them here, for whatever the reason that they are separated like this, we have to look at them as a continuation. So it's almost like an epilogue. Abraham died, was buried, etc. It came to pass after Abraham's death that God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac dwelt here. Now these are the generations of Ishmael, the son of Abraham, whom Hagar the Egyptian. So it immediately is talking about. And speaking of Ishmael, let's talk about what happened. So Isaac got the blessing, and now Ishmael's sons, these are their descendants, right? These are the different kingdoms or principalities that come from Ishmael. So here we have, yes, the Lord did not forget about the promise, and Ishmael's blessing was fulfilled, a different blessing from the one that Isaac received. It's where they dwelled, where they come from, and all those different things. So it gives you an idea of the geopolitical landscape, I suppose, of the time. And also, when Ishmael died, he expired and died, and he was gathered to his people. So even though he was thrown out of the house by Sarah's will, he still made something of himself. I mean, the man was basically a step archer of the field, that sort of thing. He became one with the bow and a hunter and all that. So he did ultimately have for himself not a bad legacy to leave behind as one who will sire several people. So I also think it's interesting, 12 princes, and later it's the 12 tribes of Israel, but we won't get too much into that. The number 12 here, maybe there's some significance to that. In any case, that concludes Chayei Sarah and all of its portions. The overall takeaway here, I suppose, is the significance. It's called the life of Sarah, right? It's about Sarah, but it then transitions into being about the passing on of Abraham. So all these things, it all stems around Sarah. Where's she going to be buried? Things of that nature. Abraham making sure that Isaac is taken care of by getting him a proper wife, and noticing that it says that he basically was comforted because of his mother's passing by having a wife. Abraham took care of that part too. And then the details of Ishmael showing up. Ishmael being sent away and then coming back for the funeral. Again, this was something that was because of Sarah. And lastly, the 12 princes that come from Ishmael, also a byproduct of what happened when Sarah had Ishmael sent away. So the life of Sarah is hugely influential here on the content of what happens throughout the entire Torah portion, not just with her own death, but also with everything that happens after it, from making sure that Isaac has a wife and then he is comforted by her, making sure that Abraham gets a burial plot for his wife, and also where he himself will be buried, and of course the return of Ishmael, and also interestingly him fulfilling the promise that Isaac's going to receive everything, sending away his sons that are from concubines, thus fulfilling another sort of promise or established understanding that he had with Sarah, finally wrapping things up with the blessing that happened for Ishmael because Sarah had him cast out from the household. So the influence of Sarah is very prevalent all throughout this portion. I think it's a good name for it, Chayei Sarah. And of course, there are so many other pieces I don't know, but at least touching on all that, this gives us a nice little bit of closure on the life of Abraham and Sarah both, as well as a clear passing of the torch to Isaac, who will no doubt be the star of the next Torah portion to come, I'm sure. In any case, this has been Shmuel Moshe. Thank you so much for tuning into the Weekly Parashahcast. I hope you learned something. I certainly did. And I hope you'll also let me know what you thought and what sort of takeaways you have about this week's Torah portion. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Feel free to reach out at any time. Beyond that, I hope you'll tune in again and stick around for future weekly Torah portion readings. Until next time, this is Shmuel Moshe. Baruch Hashem.